what it is like for you here, so many thousands of miles away from the drama going on in Ukraine right now.
I'm from Lviv. That's a city in western Ukraine. When the war started, I understood that for hundreds of years, nobody knew in the Western world what exactly Ukraine is and what do we have there. So I started to work with New York Times, CNN, BBC as a producer, and we produced a couple of films. It took first half a year, and then I realized that this process started, like everybody is doing it. I don't want to go, and I cannot go because I'm not eligible for serving in the army. My state of health is not enough to fight, and I don't want to fight because I can fight with words. And my mission became to spread a word about very complicated history of Ukraine, as you can hear here from the words of Andrei, that Ukrainian history is so much complicated and it's too much to explain there. And even inside of Ukraine, everything is so different and so messed up that we as writers should deal with it and somehow to make it in order, to just make it understandable for people. From here, it's easier to talk to the world about these issues and these situations.
I've been worried for really over a year that Americans would lose interest in Ukraine. And I am sort of proud to say that I think interest is still there, and we haven't forgotten Ukraine, and our government hasn't forgotten Ukraine, but there's always the risk that the war becomes just another news story and American politics takes a turn that goes against support for Ukraine. And I'm wondering, what do you, all three of you, see and feel here in the US about the attitude of Americans, the knowledge of Americans, and the attention span of Americans, which is famously short?
That's the first time that actually world hears about Ukraine. And the reason why Ukraine is still in the news is because there are a lot of things to tell about. And these things are just enormous. So I think that's the reason why Western world is still interested in hearing about Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian reality.
I think that's right. I think that most Americans, and it was true of both the right and the left for a long time, looked at Ukraine and saw how we would like to see ourselves. We would like to think we will fight for our freedom. We would like to think we will come together as a people and put aside our differences when we're faced with a threat like Russia.
We should understand that Ukraine fights not only for its own freedom and not its own democracy. It fights for democracy as a thing for the whole world. And that's another reason why world supports it, because they understand that if Ukraine will fall down, that's the end for the world. So this is why we have such an enormous support, and we are so grateful for that. Grateful for you guys that you support, that you are here, that you think about Ukraine, that you talk about Ukraine, that you try to understand what Ukraine is.
What I found in Ukraine is that you are not a soft people. You are a tough people. And so anyone who goes there expecting to be thanked and hugged and treated with a lot of sentimentality is going to be disappointed, because it's a tough place and the war is a brutal thing. But anyone who goes there and isn't inspired is also missing something in their soul, I would say. Do you think of what writing might be like after the war?
So for me, 3 goals before the war, during the war, and after the war are first to produce modernist literature. Ukraine ended up having problems with modernism because of the Soviet Union, because of all these poets that were tortured, killed, and so on. So that's the first thing. The second thing was to translate those poems that I like and to make it possible for the world to understand how huge and beautiful Ukrainian poetry is, and how it is a part of world's poetry. And the third thing is what we used to do and what we will do. It's talking about Ukrainian history, how it impacted the world, and how it is a part of the world.
Do you think writing about the war is something bad?
From the Soviet times, you used to have literature as an instrument of propaganda. And still you have some signs of it in Ukraine as well. Those signs are weak, but still you have it. So that's the first thing to give up right now.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what has been the experience and the role of social media over the course of the conflict, and have you found challenges with maybe false information or determining what's true and what isn't through the course of that?
The Russian machine of propaganda, Russian machine of journalism, it's just enormous. It's the biggest in the world. It's more powerful than American. That's for sure. So, and there you have small, weak country near Russia that just got its independence, you know, and trying to build its own place in Europe again, because we used to be Europe like for hundreds of years before the Soviet Union. So you can imagine how hard it is. It's actually impossible to compete with Russian machine of propaganda. The only thing is to talk to the Western world, to make Western world understand what Russia is, and then with help of Western world fight back this Russian propaganda machine. That's the only way. So we need this help, and thank you that you are on our side.
From time to time we have discussions which are quite nasty, including the harassment of the authors who agreed to share the stage with Russian opposition authors. Like, I mean, one of the most famous Ukrainian writers, Yuri Andrukhovich, was harassed on Facebook because he also had a conversation with Mikhail Shishkin, also in a small village, also in Norway. I mean, Norway is always actually sort of the cause of the internal Ukrainian problems.
And I also had it here, like having meetings like panel discussions with Russian writers that escaped Russia like years ago, and Belarusian as well, and I still got cyberbullied in the internet. So that's like normal thing to Ukrainians, you know.
But it's a very good survival school. If you survive it, then you don't care about anything else. Until they understand that they are not the best, the most spiritual, and the most powerful in the world, and that their nuclear weapon is the most frightening in the world, nothing will change. But in fact, actually, I mean, they are proud of the weapon which was produced in the Soviet times. And probably if you start launching these missiles, half of them will blow up on Russian territory. And I don't want to say that this will be a good what do you call it? Result, yes, but they should understand, actually. I mean, they should build a new country, because what they have now, it was not built by them. It is just inertia of the Soviet imperialism.
Yeah, it's not about Putin, it's about Russia. So the war is with Russia, not with Putin. If they would not have Putin right now there, they would be still the same as they are right now. So we should understand that it's the problem of their cultural code, the way they constructed it. So the only thing, as you said, is to make Russia disappear somehow, you know, just to split in different countries or something, you know. So that can be a good thing. And then like Moscow and St. Petersburg have a chance to mutate to something, well, let's say, different. Not saying better, but something else. Let's hope for that.